Hey, it's Chris Loos here at KGEM Studios, the Ralph Walker Sound Stage, for a MUSD Middle School Consolidation Update. It is December 10th, 2025. I am joined by School Board member Michael Ocon. Michael, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Good
Happy to be here.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my
Genuine.
first time. This is a beautiful studio. I'm very jealous.
I'm glad you got to see it. We got the good lights and stuff in the background.
Yeah.
Welcome. You are welcome here, man. Thank you for the work that you do on the board, and making yourself available to come in.
Sure. I mean, that's the duty of the seat is to be available to the community and answer questions. I'd like to start by just introducing myself to the
Please.
community staff there. Those of you who don't know, as Chris said, my name is Michael Ocon. I represent Trustee Area 2, which is south of Foothill, north of Doherty Road, east of Mayflower to the city limit. This is my first year on the board. The wrap-up of the first year will be December 17th. And so I'll be in office holding Trustee Area 2 seat until 2028. And it's an honor to serve. This role can be very challenging at times, but it is very rewarding to support the community of Monrovia in this way, to engage with your students as much as possible, and to support our educators and and our staff that make this work possible. So it's an honor to serve, and again, an honor to be here with you today to discuss this important topic.
No, thank you, man. It is not an easy seat that you are in. I'm sure this first year has been quite the head spin
Yeah,
of a lot of different things.
yeah,
Um, One being exactly what we're here to kind of talk about with the middle school consolidation. I'm gonna just jump right to it. I saw a survey on Facebook. I think I want to say it was October
hmm
of 2025, allowing parents, community to share feedback. Um, and then I also saw an announcement, and again, this is purely Facebook stats. This is nothing to repel, just so anyone
yeah,
watching right now. Then there was an announcement made November 18th ish that it was like Santa Fe will be closing. What was interesting to me is like when there was the consolidation survey, I want to say you might have posted that, and there was like 4 likes and no comments.
sure.
Then when it was said that Santa Fe will be closing, there was like 50 plus reactions, over 100 comments,
hmm
and that broke my heart a little bit. Anybody watching right now, like afterwards to react is cool, but it's too late. When you see that early survey, it's real important to engage, jump in, share
Yeah.
your thoughts, get involved. That's the moment to do so. Um, but nothing new here, very on brand for Facebook streets. It did feel like the verdict was kind of out that it was gonna be Santa Fe.
Well, if you don't mind, if we can back up
Yeah,
just a
please.
point on the survey. So your recollection is correct. The survey did come out through October, and it was part of our broader community engagement package around our community school our school consolidation community information work. And we did have about 853 responses to the survey itself. And so Facebook was one channel we utilized, but of course we used Instagram, we used our own Parent Square channel, and then we also worked with Dylan at the city manager's office to place that in his updates. So we did have a great deal of engagement. Of course, you always want more. We live in a city of about 40,000 people, and so that 853 number doesn't fully represent
Yeah.
all of the perspectives, and it's important to acknowledge that this question of school consolidation impacts, of course, our parents and our students and our staff, but also the entirety of the community. And so it was important for us at the district to ensure that that survey was accessible to really anybody who calls himself a Monrovian who wanted to participate. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm glad it was 850. Again, though, that number is
yeah,
compared to both schools,
sure.
the parents of both schools and the neighbors, definitely nothing to brag about, but I'm glad 850. Shout out to
Yeah,
all 850 of you that showed up.
yeah,
Um, I know that no matter what, this is not going to be a situation where that makes everybody happy.
no,
It's just impossible to do so. Um, if you don't mind, last meeting, the superintendent, Dr. Paula Hart Rodas, made her recommendation. Is that correct?
yeah.
From going through numbers, analytics, I'm guessing the survey, the feedback as well.
Yeah.
If you could kind of help clear up how that piece of it worked.
Sure. Well, as members of the community might remember, in 2024, June 2024, LA County Office of Education, which oversees all of our local educational agencies in LA County, put forth a mandate in front of MUSD, which was that we need to get our budget in order to the tune of $6.2 million in budget cuts. So, and that was for academic years 24-25 and then 25-26, our current one. So we had a first phase of that, which included a layoff of around 43 full-time employees, and then also the consolidation of our dual immersion programs and the return of sixth grade to elementary school. And so then in the second phase of that, we are looking at school consolidation. And so just in terms of your question, that's sort of the impetus for why we're having this conversation. Folks might be aware that we are much like many districts in the state, a declining enrollment district. And that is true of many districts, but it will likely be true of many districts, including our own, for the foreseeable future. And there's a lot of factors that play into that I won't discuss here, but it's a complicated issue. And so, to ensure the stability of our budget, and also to ensure the efficacy of our programming, I think it's important to understand that consolidation isn't just a fiscal, a budget crisis reaction, but really a good governance and a good program service delivery practice, right? When you consolidate your resources, what you're doing is strategically marshaling them, and ensuring that students had access to the most amount of programming and support possible. So I hope that touched on your question as it relates to the factors that we consider. While this was a voluntary decision on behalf of the board to conduct this consolidation process, the Attorney General's office, the Department of Education, and LACO outline certain factors through which a school district can consider the options before them. And insofar as we only have two schools that we're comparing, and they're both middle schools, some of those factors were not important to us, or not relevant, right? So there are questions around uh, equity. If you were to split multiple schools, how do you make sure that all of the students are being served and are being assigned to their campuses in an equitable manner? But because we're combining schools, that's not really a concern. So really what the recommendation on the part of Superintendent Hart Rodas and her team was about the facilities themselves and their abilities to steward and caretake the students that would be there in the coming years. And so that's looking at things like how many classrooms does each campus have? How large are the campuses? How large are the fields? Acknowledging that Santa Fe has a gym, and that might be a different size than Clifton's, and that Clifton has an auditorium and Santa Fe doesn't. Looking at restrooms, looking at shading, looking at parking, and so a couple of factors in that vein were what the superintendent acknowledged, and then as well the survey and really just taking a pulse of the community. I think it's important that we maintain an equity lens, and really chart out through conversation with those that know these students best. How will this land?
Yeah.
Are the factors that we're utilizing capturing that, right? To your point about wanting to increase community engagement through a survey, like, is it the case that the parents that would be most impacted by this decision are reflected in the survey? And if not, to the extent possible, how can we project outwards what concerns might impact them? Or how can we think through the gaps that might land on that population? And so that's been part of this process too. So yeah, I mean, and the
Yeah.
recommendation came in November, and the recommendation was to shut down Santa Fe and to consolidate at Clifton Middle School.
And I kind of missed the thank you for that,
Sure.
because I know for anybody who was just tapping in, like, I've been slightly more dialed in to watch
Yeah.
a few more meetings, but definitely nowhere in the know, if you would. And it
Yeah.
was a good kind of bringing us up to this moment, and also sharing kind of the equation that you're looking at
Yeah.
of how this is going to work.
Yeah.
Um, in that report from Dr. Rodas, was there like the piece of like, okay, I came to it was Santa Fe. Then we decided on closing, or that my suggestion is that we close because, was it auditorium and size, or was it kind of a bit of all of it? Was it parent input plus more size in classrooms?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I would say it's my understanding from the superintendent that that recommendation was based off of a comparison of the facilities. What's most important from both the board perspective and the district office perspective is our fiduciary responsibility to manage our budget well, and our ability to perform the duties that are before us. So, which site is best positioned to functionally host the amount of students, and we know it'll be about 700 that'll be consolidated into the middle school. So chiefly, it was which facility is best positioned to do that from her perspective, and then also importantly, the community engagement responses and feedback that we received. And so, in sort of taking all that information in and analyzing it, that is the recommendation that she came to.
Okay. And I get it. I'm a fan of 6th, 7th, you know what I mean? Or 7th and 8th, and it
Yeah.
being like all the way through 6th. That's
Sure.
kinda it's a big gap from
Yeah.
6th to 8th grade.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And looking at our neighbor city in Duarte of like them having, I think, a couple campuses that are all the way through 8th,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
straight to high school.
Yeah.
We have 5 elementaries.
Mhm.
And so this would be then 1 middle school and then a high school,
Yeah.
that we're looking at.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Um, does then 5 elementaries, and again, now I'm kind of going down a different rabbit
Yeah.
hole of conversation, but let me bring it back to
Mhm.
just talking about what we need to here with the middle schools.
Yeah.
Next step is you and the rest of your board getting together to talk things through about, is this the right decision,
Mhm.
and do we agree with
Mhm.
what the superintendent
Mhm.
has selected?
Yeah, so December 17th at 6:30, we will be having our open session meeting where we will be, amongst other things, discussing this recommendation at length and rendering collectively a decision.
Okay.
But nothing's been decided thus far.
Okay. And I saw the report, or there was a link that Dr. Rhoda shared with me on Facebook, and it also had like post decision or December 17th decision,
Mhm.
January through May, I want to
June,
say, or
yeah.
June.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then that's figuring out all the other pieces in that.
Yeah, so after the decision is made, whichever way it's made, it'll fall to Superintendent Hart Rodas and her cabinet to really design what this transition will look like and consider arrangements to be made with MTA, our Teachers Association, and then also consider program delivery, ensuring that our classrooms are utilized effectively, and then also importantly, conversations around transportation.
And then when you say program delivery, that's like classes.
Classes, excuse me, yeah,
No.
classes, but also after school programming, if there's any supplemental, programming conversations that need to be had, that would be happen there in terms of our community partnerships
Mm.
or contracts that we have. So, those things will be sorted throughout those 6 months with the hopes that, hopefully more than the hopes, but with the understanding that when we return for school in the fall, everything will be ready,
Yeah.
as much as one can prepare, for the students to return.
And question with about the campus, is the campus, are all of the campuses owned by the district, by
Mhm.
the city? Is it collaborative, or
Yeah,
they
the campuses are owned by the school district. We do have joint partnership agreements with the city in certain spaces with respect to our green spaces.
Mhm.
But we retain ownership of the properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there would be some, then I guess, and again, I'm kind of looking down the road of what happens with that campus. There is a nice gym there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the other classrooms and stuff like that. Not too familiar, but I guess, how does this get utilized? Does it get utilized? Is it
Yeah.
where a charter school slides in and then call,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Or like helps? Or
Yeah. I think it has been challenging to really sketch out what that looks like insofar as the decision has yet to be made. Um, One would have to imagine fully for both campuses what's possible, like formally what's possible to have ideas on paper in order for that to really be an integral portion of this decision. And that did not happen. So in the interim, we focus exclusively on what's before us with the understanding. And I just want to be clear, I speak for myself only. I don't
yeah.
speak on behalf of the board. I don't speak on behalf of the district.
And I'm throwing a lot at you.
Sure.
So I,
Yeah.
I got you here. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of just throwing it all at you. And I know
No,
that
please
you know
do.
it's
Please
not
do.
just you that's making these decisions.
Yeah, no, please do. I do not want to see that campus sold. To my understanding, none of my colleagues want to see it sold, and the district doesn't want to see it sold. Districts are incentivized in terms of, um, looking to the future as it relates to our budget, as it relates to property value, to not sell properties. And so I know that for me, I will not be in support of that, and I haven't heard anything to that end. But what we can discuss after the decision is made is how we could leverage that property to generate some revenue for us, whether that's hosting organizations to utilize the space, or contracting with some of our athletic
Yeah.
organizations to continue to use that space. But also what it looks like to incorporate some educational services at that site, inviting in partners, inviting in programs, turning it into a space where we do professional development. And that's true of either campus.
Yeah.
Um, but there is no intention, as I understand it, for us to sell that property. And there are some pretty strict guidelines from the state around the selling of property, because I know that there have been concerns about developers purchasing it for the purposes of placing apartments. The state law outlines that in order for a property to be sold, as I understand it, it would first have to be offered to the public. So for cities, or for public use, so to the cities, to your point, to charter schools. And so it's not an easy process for a property to be sold, and it's an even more challenging one for it to be sold to a developer for the purposes of establishing apartments or housing. And I know that for myself, and again, as I understand it from our district, we are not interested in that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, I mean, me just sharing, like, I'd love to see how it could be utilized to help bring money to the district, how it can help our students if it's like you said, athletics, getting a space that's
yeah,
more super serving to
yeah,
certain things that
yeah,
can't happen outside.
yeah,
Um, and I'm also a fan of radical thought in this moment that we're
yes,
going into with
yeah,
education and
yeah,
like nobody knows what a workforce looks like in the next 3 to 5 years. We're
yeah,
preparing students for college
yeah,
and higher education, but higher education institutes don't really know
sure,
where jobs are going to be in the next
yeah, exactly.
three, five.
And I think we could leverage whichever campus we decide to pull our programming from, in terms of our classes from, to support this idea that the workforce is changing and that we need to continue to be thoughtful
Mm.
and transformative about how we do what we do. I know that there are a number of community colleges, and the community college system at large is also struggling with declining enrollments. There's an incentive there for us to develop more formal and stronger partnerships with each other. PUSD, for example, through John Muir High School, has a dual enrollment satellite campus from PCC. Maybe we do something similar with Citrus College,
Mm.
and we host on our property a dual enrollment program that both provides students a pathway to graduating with a degree or diploma and an associate's degree, and then also importantly normalizes college going culture. So, and that's why I say consolidation isn't just a fiscal crisis response; it's a good governance and good practice response. Because in the moment that we're living in, where enrollment's declining, public education is really struggling, we have to be creative, and we have to really lean on our community, right? And that's the Monrovian community, but that's also the regional community of community colleges, of CSUs and UCs, and how do we position ourselves to make the most out of all of the amazing resources that exist.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we have to conduct this process and render a decision that is equitable, um, that is thoughtful about what transformation looks like, and that places us in a fiscally sound position,
Mm.
which is the mandate of the Board of Education.
Perfect, man. Thank you. Anything else that you would like to share with parents and community before,
Yeah,
the December 17th school board meeting, which is something that you can attend.
sure.
Get on over there to the admin building, 7 o'clock, 6:30, 6:30, 6:30. I had you late. 6:30.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else that you'd like to share?
Um, I would just want to thank the parents, the caregivers, and the staff and students that have participated in this process. This is a heartbreaking process. I just want to acknowledge that no district relishes this conversation. I am at the same time grateful that we're having it. I have also seen how harmful it can be when districts become um, unwilling to have these difficult conversations, and when we allow bad governance practice and bad fiscal practices to cement. What we're allowing is the decline in our program delivery to cement. So I'm grateful that we're having this conversation. In the meantime, I want to continue to be mindful about how this lands on our students. I want us to continue to be mindful about how we talk about this. I spoke at the last board meeting about frustrations that I had with some of the survey responses, and I just want to speak to my community with my heart open and with a level of vulnerability. But it was harmful, some of the comments that we heard, and I feel it my responsibility as a brown man, as a working class man, to speak on behalf of the students, who frankly were belittled in some of the conversation that existed, be it online or through our survey. And I mean this with respect. These are our neighbors. These students are our students, and they're our future. And so, to the extent that that's true, we owe them respect. We owe those parents respect, and it's our job to keep them top of mind. And so, wherever this decision lands, my commitment, and I believe the commitment of this district, is to meet those gaps, meet those parents and those students and those families where they are, to ensure that they have meaningful and equitable transportation to whichever campus remains, to ensure that where there are issues with attendance, that we are meeting it with programming and not with punitive measures. Where there are issues accessing after school programming or theater programming, that we are responding with resources, that we are responding with intentionality. And I think one of the amazing parts about consolidation is that it frees us up to consider partnerships that might not have been possible before, as it relates to funding. And so my eye is towards college and career. So looking at how we can, enter into partnerships and contracts that provide our middle school students with college and career counseling and workshops and conversations that start triggering within them this deep interest in what comes next after MUSD. So I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge those things. I am not in support of this recommendation. Presently, I am concerned about, again, the things that I mentioned, how this lands on our Santa Fe students. And those concerns have not been assuaged thus far. Um, and so in the interim, that is where I stand. And I think it's important that I'm clear with my community on where I stand. Um, but I am confident that whatever decision this board renders, to my earlier point, we will do our best to make sure our students are served, and to make sure our community is served. I think one important aspect of this, again, that I mentioned before, was that, if it is the case that Santa Fe's closed, we now only have one school south of the freeway. And the remainder of our schools are concentrated up north. And I want to make sure that we're mindful of what that communicates to Southern Monrovia. I want to make sure that we're mindful of, as I said when we first started this conversation, that this impacts everyone that calls this community home. And so just wanted to keep those things top of mind. Again, I thank the community for their participation thus far. And this is an open conversation. My email, my phone number is listed on the website under the Board of Education. That is my personal cell phone. It's not the district's cell phone. So please reach out. Folks want to meet for coffee and talk about this, please do so. And with that's all I have.
Man, I really appreciate that. Like it makes me hopeful to see the thought that's going in, and I know there's other school board members that feel the same and are
Yeah.
thinking and care about our students that have been here. I definitely, to our community, to our people online, like the
Yeah.
adults. This is my message to y'all. Like,
Yeah.
listen, I'm not speaking for anybody here but me, but I would love to see the energy of how do we do things for our young people,
Yeah.
not the, oh, well, I went to junior high there and I would hate it. This is deplorable. How dare they? This is not a personal thing to you. Those are beautiful memories that you have. And a lot of people are going to be going through the same experience with you. They're going to lose their middle school just like you did. Um, but for the kids right now, if we could think about them and how we
Yeah.
can continue to evolve education. We're in about to hit 2026. Everything is changing from education to jobs to all of it.
Yeah.
So like it's rough. It's rough for all of us. But if we can come with the energy and insight and thoughts that could be helpful for our young people, I'd love to see that spewed all over
Yeah.
Facebook. that would be very helpful to leaders like our school board and our superintendent to see that kind of thought.
Yeah.
We know that it's tough. We know that your feelings are hurt and that you're mad your school is getting shut down. I totally get that feeling. That's cool. You could have that conversation in the house, but on Facebook, let's share the things that can be helpful
Sure.
for this next generation moving forward.
Well, and to that point, a school is not just a building, it's the people.
Correct.
It's the staff. Um,
Correct.
it's the parents, the parent volunteers that come in, and we need your support. And I think one of my commitments to my community is that I'm working in partnership every day with our superintendent who agrees with me and aligns with me that community engagement needs to be at the forefront and not just surveys and let's have a coffee and things like that, but structural engagement where we're developing committees that invite parents to formally become part of our process.
Absolutely.
Or we're thinking about state of the schools. I had a conversation about that. What would it look like for that to be almost like a town hall where folks are coming in and co-ideating and co-envisioning what the future of public education in this community looks like. So that's my commitment to you is insofar as you are interested and willing to show up, I'm going to do my part to make sure that there's a place ready to receive you within our process.
I'm a fan of that. I love
Me too. I mean, we can't do it any other way. So our parents are the backbone, our caregivers are the backbone, and we need them as part of this process.
for sure. One last ask before we wrap up. Do you think it would be possible to get together post 1217 meeting? I'll reach out to Dr. Rodis or I'll try to find maybe I'd love to get a parent watching this. I would like to be a part of the conversation. Please message me, reach out.
Yeah.
Something that we
No, absolutely. I can't say this enough that Dr. Paula Hart Rodas has approached this process with impeccable professionalism. Her heart is for this community. She's one of the first superintendents, as I understand, in many years that literally relocated here. She lives in Monrovia now as a function of wanting to be a part of this community. And I know that her team approached this conversation with the same level of fidelity. So I know that they would be interested in participating in a conversation such as I have today to discuss what their vision is for the next 6 months as we transition to the next iteration of middle schooling here in Monrovia. So I will do my best to orchestrate that.
No, appreciate it,
Yeah.
man. Member Ocon, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Chris.
And I genuinely appreciate you making the time to come and share
Absolutely.
this. This is the MUSD Middle School Consolidation Update as of December the 10th, 2025. We are hoping to get you an update post 1217 to get you more information. Hope this was helpful, and we'll catch you next time.